3 weeks ago. "You did it, Marlowe. The Patterson contract is yours." Scarlett Marlowe could still taste the celebratory champagne on her tongue when her boss, Richard Donovan, announced the promotion in front of the entire team. Marketing Director of Donovan Enterprises, at 28 years old. She had worked 60 hours a week for 6 months to close that $15 million contract with Patterson Tech, and she was finally reaping the rewards. The conference room exploded in applause. Scarlett smiled, adjusting the navy blue blazer she'd bought especially for that day. She had no idea that moment of glory would be merely the bait for the most elaborate trap of her career. Now, "You must be kidding me." Scarlett stared at her reflection in the mirror of the ladies' room at the Aurelius Club, the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan, where only members with surnames that appeared on buildings could reserve a table. Her hands trembled as she tried to repair her smudged makeup. Mascara ran in thin lines down her cheeks, remnants of tears she refused to shed in front of them. 15 minutes ago, she'd been sitting at the main table in the private dining room, next to Cornelius Donovan, the 50-something patriarch of the family and founder of the business empire. He had personally invited her to a welcome dinner after her promotion. An honor, everyone said. Old Donovan rarely dines with employees. Scarlett should have been suspicious when she realized she was the only team member present. The dining room door opened, and he walked in. Magnus Donovan. 32 years of arrogance distilled into a 3-piece Tom Ford suit. Apparent heir to the empire, with an MBA from Stanford that he mentioned as frequently as he breathed. Scarlett had seen him exactly 3 times in 6 years at the company, always from afar, always surrounded by subordinates who hung on his every word as if he were reciting the 10 Commandments. He stopped in the middle of the room. His eyes, gray as a storm over the Atlantic, swept across the table until they landed on her. And then something extraordinary happened. Magnus Donovan, the man who according to corporate rumors had ice in his veins and stone where there should be a heart, became completely still. His jaw contracted. His fingers closed on the back of the empty chair next to Scarlett with enough force to whiten his knuckles. "Magnus, darling." The melodious and dangerously sweet voice cut through the silence. Vivian Donovan, matriarch of the family, emerged behind her son like a serpent wearing Chanel. "How wonderful that you managed to join us." "I thought you were too busy with—" "What was it again?" "Ah, yes. Very important meetings." Scarlett didn't miss the venom in the word important. "And this," Vivian continued, gesturing toward Scarlett with her diamond-adorned hand, as if pointing out a stain on the Persian rug, "is the famous Miss Marlowe, our new marketing director." The emphasis on new carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken insults. "Delighted." Magnus extended his hand, but his voice came out hoarse, almost strangled. When Scarlett's fingers touched his, an electric spark ran up her arm. Magnus's eyes widened imperceptibly. "Likewise," she responded, withdrawing her hand faster than she'd intended. "Magnus, love, aren't you going to greet Phoebe?" Only then did Scarlett notice the delicate blonde woman sitting on Magnus's other side. Phoebe Ashworth Sterling, the kind of name that came with trust funds and summer houses in Nantucket. She wore a peach-colored dress that probably cost Scarlett's monthly salary, and a smile that didn't reach her icy blue eyes. "Hello, Magnus," Phoebe purred, placing a possessive hand on his arm. "I missed you this morning." Arranged fiancé, Scarlett realized with a tightening in her stomach. She'd heard rumors about the marriage of convenience between the Donovans and the Ashworth Sterlings, 2 business dynasties joining forces. But seeing the reality was different. The dinner was a descent into gold-plated hell. Vivian commanded the table with the precision of a general planning a battle. Every comment, every question directed at Scarlett, was a stab wrapped in silk. "So, Miss Marlowe, where are you from originally?" Vivian asked while tasting the wine, which cost more than Scarlett's car. It must be something exotic to have come so far so fast. "Brooklyn," Scarlett answered, raising her chin. born and raised in Park Slope. Ah. Vivian's ah carried volumes of disdain. How American. Phoebe laughed, a sound as sharp as breaking crystal. It's so inspiring when ordinary people manage to stand out. She looked at Scarlett with false admiration. You must have worked so hard. I imagine you haven't had time for a personal life. You're single, I assume. Magnus dropped his fork with enough force to make noise. The dinner continued at that torturous pace. Cornelius remained silent, observing everything with shrewd eyes that missed nothing. Magnus barely touched his food, alternating between staring at Scarlett and looking away abruptly, jaw tense. The final blow came at dessert. Richard told me you're an orphan, Vivian said casually, as if commenting on the weather. Your parents died when you were a teenager, didn't they? A car accident, I believe. The room fell silent. Scarlett felt as if she'd been punched in the stomach. That wasn't in any HR file. Vivian had investigated her life. That's not relevant to my position at the company, Scarlett managed to say, her voice trembling. Oh dear, of course it is. Vivian smiled, a smile that didn't come close to her eyes. Family is everything at Donovan Enterprises. Loyalty, lineage, tradition. These are the pillars that sustain us. I wonder if someone without roots can truly understand our corporate culture. Mother. The word came from Magnus like a low growl. What, darling? Vivian turned to him, eyebrows arched in feigned innocence. I'm just getting to know our new director. After all, she'll be working directly with you on the Patterson campaign. Working directly with him. No one had mentioned this to Scarlett. From the way Magnus composed himself, it was news to him too. How wonderful, Phoebe clapped delicately. You two will spend so much time together. Magnus, you'll have to introduce Miss Marlowe to our world. Teach her how things work in the right circles. The insult was clear. She doesn't belong here. Scarlett stood up so abruptly that her chair almost toppled. Excuse me, I need to compose myself. She left before anyone could respond, before they could see the tears that threatened to fall. Now, looking at her destroyed reflection in the gilded mirror of the bathroom, Scarlett finally understood. The promotion wasn't a reward. It was a test, or worse, a trap, and she had just thrown herself right into it. The door opened behind her. The Donovans have always been masters at making people feel small. Scarlett turned. An older woman, perhaps 50 years old, with an elegant dress and gray hair pulled back in a bun, watched her with a mixture of sympathy and something that looked like amusement. Excuse me, Scarlett said. Don't apologize, and don't let that viper in high heels destroy you. The woman approached, offering a silk handkerchief. You closed the Patterson contract. That infuriated a lot of important people, especially because Magnus had been trying for 2 years. Who are you? Margaret Chen, retired CFO of Donovan Enterprises, and someone who survived 20 years of dinners like this one. She smiled. My advice? Leave. Come back tomorrow with your head held high and prove they were wrong. Or better yet, Margaret leaned in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Make Magnus Donovan fall in love with you. That would be the best revenge. Scarlett laughed, without humor. He barely looked at me. And he has a fiancée. Darling. Margaret stared at her as if she were naive. He only looked at you, and that's exactly why he's doomed. Before Scarlett could respond, Margaret had already left, leaving only the scent of gardenia and a seed of something dangerous in Scarlett's mind. A terrible idea. Impossible. Absolutely tempting. She looked at her reflection once more, wiped away the last traces of mascara, and straightened her shoulders. The Donovans wanted war. Scarlett Marlowe was from Brooklyn. She knew how to fight, and this time, she wouldn't lose. Scarlett arrived at Donovan Enterprises at 6:47 a.m., 13 minutes earlier than usual. The marble lobby was nearly empty, save for the security guard who looked surprised to see anyone before 7. She'd spent the entire night rehearsing what she'd say when she inevitably ran into Magnus. Professional, cold, untouchable. She'd chosen her armor carefully, a charcoal gray power suit that cost 2 weeks' salary, her mother's vintage Cartier watch, the only valuable thing she owned, and red lipstick bold enough to declare war. The Donovans wanted to break her? They'd have to try harder. Miss Marlowe. Scarlett froze halfway to the elevator. That voice, deep, rough, like expensive whiskey, had haunted her dreams. Magnus Donovan stood by the reception desk, looking like he hadn't slept either. His tie was loosened, top button undone, sleeves rolled to his elbows. A leather messenger bag hung from his shoulder. He looked almost human. Mr. Donovan. She kept her voice neutral, professional. You're here early. I never left. He gestured toward the executive floor. Had some contracts to review. Liar, Scarlett thought. The shadows under his eyes spoke of something else entirely. Guilt? Insomnia? She didn't care. Wouldn't care. Well, don't let me keep you. She moved toward the elevator. Scarlett, Miss Marlowe. He caught up in 3 strides. About last night. There's nothing to discuss, Mr. Donovan. It was a lovely dinner. The lie tasted bitter. Your mother is quite thorough in her assessments. His jaw clenched. She was out of line. Was she? Scarlett pressed the elevator button, watching the numbers descend. She made valid points. I don't come from your world. I don't understand the culture. I'm just an orphan from Brooklyn who got lucky. Stop. The word came out sharp, almost desperate. Don't reduce yourself to her poison. The elevator dinged. Scarlett stepped inside, but Magnus followed, the doors sliding shut behind them. Suddenly, the spacious elevator felt microscopic. Which floor? She asked, finger hovering over the panel. Same as yours, 32nd. Of course, the executive level, where she now apparently belonged. The elevator hummed to life. 32 floors. Approximately 90 seconds of excruciating proximity to a man who smelled like cedar and bad decisions. My mother, Magnus started, has every right to protect her family's interests, Scarlett interrupted. I get it. I'm an outsider, a risk. Someone who might not understand the sacred Donovan traditions. You closed a $15 million contract that I couldn't. His voice dropped lower, intimate in the confined space. You're not an outsider. You're a threat. There's a difference. Scarlett turned to face him fully. Big mistake. He was closer than she'd realized, close enough that she could see gold flecks in those storm-gray eyes, close enough to notice the barely perceptible tremor in his hands. A threat to what, exactly? To everything I've been told to want. The confession came out raw, unfiltered. Everything I'm supposed to be. The elevator seemed to slow, time stretching like taffy. Scarlett's breath caught. This wasn't the arrogant air from last night. This was something else, something dangerous. You have a fiancé, she said, hating how breathless she sounded. I have an arrangement. Magnus's eyes dropped to her lips, just for a second, but it was enough to ignite every nerve ending in Scarlett's body. There's a difference. The elevator dinged, 28th floor. The doors remained closed. Did you just... Scarlett looked at the panel. The emergency stop button glowed red. Did you just trap us in an elevator? We need to talk. No, we need to get to work like professionals. She reached for the button, but Magnus caught her wrist. His touch burned. Please. The word seemed to cost him everything. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Scarlett should pull away, should slap him, report him, do any of the 1,000 things a rational woman would do. Instead, she stayed perfectly still. Talk then. You have 4 minutes left. Magnus released her wrist, but didn't step back. The Patterson campaign. I'm not going to sabotage you. How generous. I mean it. Whatever my mother thinks, whatever game she's playing, you earned that promotion. The campaign is yours to lead. And you? I'll assist, consult, Whatever you need. He ran a hand through his dark hair, disheveling it further. I know that's not the narrative you expected. The arrogant heir undermining the upstart, but I don't operate that way. Scarlett studied him, looking for the lie, the manipulation. Found only exhaustion and something that looked painfully like sincerity. Why? Why what? Why are you being decent? Your mother made it clear I'm enemy number one. Your fiancé looked at me like I was something she scraped off her Louboutins. You could make my life hell, and instead you're... She gestured vaguely at the stopped elevator. Doing this. Magnus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because when I walked into that dining room last night and saw you, I forgot how to breathe. And I've spent 12 hours trying to convince myself it was nothing, a glitch, exhaustion. But I can't. He met her eyes, and the intensity there nearly buckled her knees. I can't stop thinking about you, and I hate it. I hate that my mother saw it, that Phoebe saw it, that everyone in that room knew before I did. The confession hung between them, electric and dangerous. Mr. Donovan, Magnus, please just... Magnus. Magnus. His name tasted like trouble. This is a terrible idea. I know. You're engaged. I work for your family. There are approximately 47 ways this could destroy both our careers. 48, actually. I counted. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. But I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. You're not alone in this. The elevator speakers crackled. Mr. Donovan? Sir, is everything all right? Security is showing the executive elevator stopped between floors. Reality crashed back. Magnus pressed the button, and the elevator lurched back to life. Everything's fine, Marcus. Just a minor malfunction. They reached the 32nd floor in silence. The doors opened to reveal the executive suite, all glass walls and modern art, the nerve center of the Donovan Empire. Scarlett stepped out, then turned back. Magnus still stood in the elevator, looking lost and undone, and nothing like the arrogant heir she'd expected. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I forgot how to breathe too. The doors closed on his stunned expression. Scarlett made it to her new office. Corner view, wall of windows overlooking Central Park, desk the size of a small country, before her knees gave out. She sank into the leather chair, heart hammering. What had she just done? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dinner tonight. Just business. I promise. M. She should decline. Should maintain distance, professionalism, sanity. Her fingers moved before her brain could catch up. Fine. But I'm choosing the restaurant. Brooklyn. 7 p.m. His response came immediately. I'll bring my passport. Despite everything, the disaster of last night, the impossibility of their situation, the career suicide she was flirting with, Scarlett smiled. Let Magnus Donovan come to her world for once. Let him see what it meant to be the outsider. The restaurant Scarlett chose wasn't on any Michelin guide. Rosario's occupied a corner in Williamsburg, with checkered tablecloths, mismatched chairs, and the best Italian food in Brooklyn. It's where her father had taken her every birthday before the accident. She arrived at 6:55 p.m., deliberately early, claiming her usual table by the window. The owner, Mrs. Rosario, 73 and fierce, hugged her like always. Bella, you never come anymore. Too fancy now with your big job? Never too fancy for your carbonara, Mrs. R. Good girl. I make you the special, yes? The old woman's eyes narrowed. You meeting someone? You wear lipstick and perfume. Dio mio, is a man? Before Scarlett could answer, the door opened. Magnus Donovan stood in the entrance of Rosario's like a Vogue model who'd wandered into the wrong photo shoot. He'd changed from his morning dishevelment into dark jeans, a gray Henley, and a leather jacket that probably cost more than Mrs. Rosario's monthly rent. Every head in the restaurant turned. Madonna Santa, Mrs. Rosario whispered. That one is trouble, Cara. Beautiful trouble. You have no idea, Scarlett muttered. Magnus spotted her and smiled. A real smile, not the corporate mask, and Scarlett's traitorous heart did a somersault. Miss Marlowe. He reached the table, looking almost nervous. I wasn't sure you'd actually show. I considered standing you up. She gestured to the chair across from her. But I'm too curious to see if you'll survive Brooklyn. He laughed, and the sound transformed his entire face. I grew up in Manhattan, not Mars. I think I can handle it. We'll see. Mrs. Rosario materialized beside Magnus, arms crossed, expression dubious. You make my Scarlett cry, I break your kneecaps. Capisce? Magnus's eyes widened slightly, but he didn't miss a beat. Yes, ma'am. Understood. Though I should mention, my goal is quite the opposite. We see. But Mrs. Rosario's eyes twinkled. I bring you the special. You eat, you don't complain. This not your fancy uptown places. When she left, Magnus leaned forward, eyes dancing with amusement. Should I be concerned about my kneecaps? Absolutely. Mrs. R doesn't make idle threats. Scarlett took a sip of water, using the moment to compose herself. Being near him away from the office felt different. Dangerous. So, you wanted to talk business? Right, business. He pulled out his phone, then seemed to think better of it, and set it aside. The Patterson campaign. I reviewed your proposal last night. You read my proposal? Every word, twice actually. He met her eyes. It's brilliant. The social media integration, the millennial targeting, the sustainability angle. You understood what Patterson wanted better than anyone, better than I did. Scarlett blinked, waiting for the criticism, the suggestions, the subtle undermining. It didn't come. Thank you. I mean it. My only question is about the budget allocation for... Mrs. Rosario returned with wine. You drink, is good. From my cousin's vineyard in Tuscany. For the next hour, they talked. Really talked. About marketing strategies and risk assessment, about Patterson's CEO and his obsession with authentic brand narratives. Magnus listened. Actually listened, asking questions that showed he'd not only read her proposal but understood it deeply. Somewhere between the pasta and the tiramisu, the conversation shifted. So how does someone from Stanford's MBA program end up in an arranged engagement? Scarlett asked, emboldened by wine and curiosity. Magnus's smile faded. Same way someone becomes heir to a company they never asked to inherit. Family expectations, legacy. The weight of a surname that comes with strings attached. Do you love her? Phoebe? He shook his head slowly. I respect her. She's intelligent, accomplished. We've known each other since we were children. Our parents have been planning this marriage, for years. That's not an answer. No. He met her eyes. I don't love her, and she doesn't love me. It's a transaction, a very expensive, socially acceptable transaction. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Is it? My parents had a love marriage. They destroyed each other, made each other miserable for 30 years before my father finally died. Love didn't save them. He paused, something raw crossing his face. At least with Phoebe, we know what we're getting. No illusions, no devastating disappointments, no passion, no real connection, no waking up excited to see someone. Careful, Miss Marlowe. You're starting to sound like a romantic. Maybe I am. She leaned forward. My parents had 17 years together, 17 years of arguments and laughter and messy, complicated, beautiful love. And when they died, I thought I'd die too from the grief. But you know what? I wouldn't trade a single day of that pain to have never loved them. Magnus stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You terrify me, he said quietly. Good. His phone buzzed. Then again, and again. Magnus glanced at it, and his expression darkened. Phoebe? My mother. Apparently, someone saw me entering a questionable establishment in Brooklyn. He showed her the text. Dinner with the help, Magnus? Really? Call me immediately. Scarlett's stomach dropped. Someone followed you. Or you. My mother has resources. He typed a quick response and pocketed the phone. I'm sorry. This is what you signed up for when you agreed to meet me. No. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. This is what I chose. For the first time in my life, I chose something just because I wanted it, because sitting across from you feels more real than anything I've experienced in 32 years. Scarlett should pull her hand away, should end this before it became something neither of them could walk away from unscathed. She didn't. Magnus, this is impossible. I know. You've mentioned. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, and Scarlett forgot how to breathe. But I can't seem to care. Should I? Should I care that my mother will make your life hell? That Phoebe will weaponize this? That the board will use it to question your competence? Yes. The word came out barely above a whisper. You absolutely should care. We both should. Then why don't we? Because when he looked at her like that, like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world, caring about consequences felt impossible. Mrs. Rosario appeared, breaking the moment. Is late. I close soon. You two, you resolve this tension, yes? You make old woman nervous with all the eye-making. After Magnus insisted on paying, leaving a tip that probably exceeded the bill, they stood outside Rosario's in the cool November air. The street was quiet, intimate, a world away from Manhattan's chaos. I should get a car back, Magnus said, but made no move to leave. Probably. This was a terrible idea. The worst. Can we do it again? Scarlett laughed, the sound surprising her. You're impossible. So I've been told. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth. Tell me to leave, Scarlett. Tell me this is just business and I'll go. I'll be professional. I'll keep my distance. She should. God, she should. I can't, she whispered. Magnus's eyes darkened. His hand came up, fingers barely grazing her cheek, and a camera flash exploded in the darkness. They jumped apart as a figure darted from the shadows, disappearing around the corner before either could react. Magnus's phone immediately lit up with calls. The photograph would be everywhere by morning, and the real war was just beginning. The photograph hit page 6 by 5:47 a.m. Donovan Ayres' secret romance. Magnus Donovan spotted in intimate moment with mystery woman, not his fiancée Phoebe Ashworth Sterling. Sources say the woman is a recent hire at Donovan Enterprises. Wedding bells or corporate scandal? The image was damning. Magnus's hand on Scarlett's cheek, their faces inches apart, eyes locked in unmistakable intimacy. The photographer had captured the exact moment before the flash, frozen in high definition for all of New York society to dissect. Scarlett's phone started ringing at 6:03 a.m. She ignored the first 7 calls, all from numbers she didn't recognize. The 8th was from Richard Donovan's assistant. Miss Marlowe, Mr. Richard Donovan requests your presence in the executive conference room. 7:30 a.m. It's urgent. Not a request, a summons. Scarlett arrived at 7:15, her third outfit choice, conservative navy dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back severely, war paint for a different kind of battle. The executive conference room occupied the entire north side of the 34th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a power move designed to remind everyone who controlled the skyline. She wasn't the first to arrive. Vivian Donovan sat at the head of the table like a queen holding court, dressed in ivory Chanel, every platinum hair in place. Beside her, Phoebe wore wounded dignity like a designer accessory, dabbing at perfectly dry eyes with a handkerchief. Richard Donovan looked uncomfortable. Cornelius, the patriarch, watched everything with those sharp, calculating eyes. Magnus stood by the windows, rigid as stone, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He turned when Scarlett entered, and the anguish in his expression nearly broke her. "Miss Marlowe." Vivian's voice could cut glass. "How kind of you to grace us with your presence." "Mrs. Donovan." Scarlett kept her voice steady. "You asked to see me." "Asked, yes." Vivian slid a tablet across the table. The photograph glowed on the screen, along with a dozen articles speculating about the mystery woman who'd captured Magnus Donovan's attention. "Would you care to explain this? We had a business dinner to discuss the Patterson campaign." "A business dinner?" Phoebe's voice dripped venom. "In Brooklyn, at a restaurant with checkered tablecloths. How quaint." The location was irrelevant. "We discussed marketing strategies, budget allocations." "You discussed my son like he's available," Vivian interrupted. "You, a junior employee barely 3 weeks in her position, decided to pursue an engaged man. A man whose family controls your career, your future, your very livelihood." The accusation hung in the air, ugly and deliberate. "That's not what happened," Magnus said, voice rough from lack of sleep. "Mother, I invited her. I pursued—" "Magnus, darling, men pursue women all the time. It's how these ambitious types operate." Vivian's smile was poison. "They see an opportunity, a vulnerability, and they exploit it. Miss Marlowe saw a shortcut to power and took it." Scarlett's nails dug into her palms. "I've done nothing but my job, exceptionally well. The Patterson contract is impressive. We're not disputing your professional capabilities." Richard finally spoke, looking miserable. "But Scarlett, this situation is complicated. The optics are terrible. The board is calling. Our shareholders are concerned. And the Ashworth-Sterling family is threatening to pull their merger negotiations." $42 million in partnerships, Cornelius added, speaking for the first time. His voice was deceptively mild. All jeopardized by one photograph. The weight of it crushed down. $42 million, careers, reputations, all because she'd let herself feel something real for the first time since her parents died. "I'll resign," Scarlett said quietly. "Effective immediately." "No." Magnus moved from the window, fury radiating off him. "Absolutely not. She's done nothing wrong." "I'm the one who—" "Magnus, enough!" Cornelius raised a hand. "Miss Marlowe, resignation won't be necessary. However, we do require certain assurances." Here it comes, Scarlett thought, the ultimatum. "You will complete the Patterson campaign as planned. You will maintain absolute professionalism with Magnus, no private meetings, no personal contact whatsoever. You will sign an NDA regarding this incident, with severe financial penalties for any violation." Cornelius leaned forward. "And you will attend Magnus and Phoebe's engagement party next week, smile for cameras, and demonstrate that this photograph was an unfortunate misunderstanding between colleagues. Nothing more." Each condition felt like a knife between her ribs. "And if I refuse?" "Then you'll find that doors close quickly in this industry," Vivian said sweetly. "Not just at Donovan Enterprises. Everywhere. My reach is extensive, Miss Marlowe. I can ensure you never work in marketing again. In fact, I can make sure you're unemployable in any professional capacity in New York, possibly the entire Eastern Seaboard." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. "You can't do this," Magnus said, voice dangerously low. "You can't blackmail her into—" "I can do whatever necessary to protect this family." Vivian turned to her son. "You will marry Phoebe in June, as planned. You will stop this adolescent rebellion and remember who you are. A Donovan. Not some romantic fool throwing away his future for a fleeting infatuation." "It's not—" Magnus looked at Scarlett, desperate, lost. "Tell them. Tell them it's not just—" "It was a business dinner," Scarlett interrupted, each word costing her everything. "That's all. Mr. Donovan and I discussed the campaign. The photograph was taken at an unfortunate angle. There's nothing between us." The lie tasted like ash. Magnus stared at her, betrayal and understanding warring in his eyes. He knew what she was doing. Knew she was sacrificing herself to protect them both. There, Vivian said triumphantly. Settled. Miss Marlowe understands the situation. Don't you, dear? Perfectly. Scarlett met the older woman's gaze steadily. May I go? I have work to do. One more thing. Phoebe stood, moving to Magnus's side with practiced grace, slipping her arm through his. The engagement party. I'll have my assistant send you the dress code. Black tie. Try not to embarrass yourself. I know your background might make formal events challenging. The final insult, delivered with a smile. Scarlett left the conference room with her head high, refusing to look back at Magnus. She made it to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and finally let the tears fall. Her phone buzzed. A text from Magnus. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This isn't over. But it was. It had to be. Another text, this time from an unknown number. You survived round 1. Impressive. But Vivian plays for keeps. If you want to win this war, you'll need allies. Meet me at the address below, 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone. Margaret Chen, an address in Soho. A chance. A risk. Scarlett splashed cold water on her face, reapplied her lipstick, and made a decision. The Donovans thought they'd won. The game was just beginning. She texted back, I'll be there. At his desk, Magnus stared at the photograph on every news site, seeing what the cameras couldn't capture, the exact moment he'd fallen completely, irrevocably, in love with Scarlett Marlowe, and knowing his mother would destroy them both before she'd let him have her. He opened his laptop and began typing an email that would change everything. Some wars required different weapons, and Magnus was done playing by his mother's rules. The Soho address led to a penthouse gallery, all exposed brick and modern art. Margaret Chen waited by a sculpture that looked like twisted metal, but probably cost 6 figures. You came, Margaret said, handing Scarlett a glass of wine. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either. Scarlett accepted the glass but didn't drink. Why am I here, Margaret? What's your angle? Smart girl. Always look for the angle. Margaret gestured to a private viewing room. Come. We need to talk somewhere without ears. The room was soundproofed, intimate. Margaret closed the door, and her expression shifted from friendly to shrewd. Vivian Donovan destroyed my career 20 years ago, forced me out after I discovered something she desperately wanted hidden. I've been waiting a long time for the right person, the right moment, to return the favor. And I'm that person? You're the catalyst. The first woman Magnus has ever looked at like she's oxygen. Margaret pulled out a tablet. But you need to understand what you're up against. The Donovans aren't just wealthy, they're ruthless. And Vivian is the worst of them. She opened a file. Photographs, documents, emails. A trail of destroyed careers, ruined reputations, lives dismantled with surgical precision. Every person who threatened Vivian's control over Magnus. Every woman he showed interest in. Every business rival who got too close. She eliminates obstacles. Margaret met Scarlett's eyes. You're her biggest threat yet, which means she'll come at you harder than anyone before. Scarlett studied the files. 3 women over the past decade, all erased from high-profile careers after brief connections with Magnus. One was working retail in Kansas now. Another had left the country entirely. Why are you helping me? Because I'm tired of watching that woman win, and because... Margaret hesitated. I think Magnus might actually love you. I've known him since he was 10. I've never seen him fight for anything the way he fought for you this morning. He didn't fight. He let them threaten me, control me. He sent 37 emails in the last 12 hours. Margaret pulled up another screen. To every board member, major shareholder, and business partner, detailing his plan to restructure the company if they force this marriage. He's threatening to walk away from Donovan Enterprises entirely. Scarlett's breath caught. He can't do that. It would destroy him. He's willing to. For you. Margaret leaned forward. But here's what he doesn't know. Vivian has a contingency plan. She always does. She pulled up a final document, a contract, dated 3 months ago. Between Vivian Donovan and a private investigation firm. She's been building a file on you since the Patterson contract was announced. Your finances, your past, your college years. She's looking for anything she can weaponize. And she found something. Ice flooded Scarlett's veins. What? Your student loans. You're still paying them off, barely staying afloat. $173,000 in debt. Margaret's expression was sympathetic. Vivian plans to offer you a deal at the engagement party. $200,000 deposited in your account in exchange for your resignation and permanent silence, in front of everyone. The room spun. She's going to publicly bribe me to leave. She's going to make you look like exactly what she's been saying you are. An opportunist using Magnus for money. Margaret gripped her hand. Unless we strike first. How? The Ashworth-Sterling merger. It's not as solid as everyone thinks. Phoebe's father has been embezzling from their family trust for 3 years. I have proof. She pulled up spreadsheets, transaction records. If this goes public, the Ashworth-Sterlings are ruined. The merger collapses. And Vivian loses her leverage over Magnus. That's blackmail. That's survival. Margaret's eyes hardened. You think Vivian plays fair? You think she got where she is by being nice? This is war, Scarlett. And in war, you use every weapon available. Scarlett's phone buzzed. A text from Magnus. Where are you? We need to talk, please. Her heart ached. She wanted to run to him, to tell him everything, to let him fix this. But Margaret was right. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was business. Brutal, ugly business. What do you want in return? Scarlett asked. When this is over, when you're standing beside Magnus as his actual choice, not his obligation, I want my reputation back. A public statement from Vivian acknowledging what she did to me, and a very generous consulting contract with Donovan Enterprises. You're betting on us ending up together. I'm betting on love being more powerful than control. High stakes, I know. But I've watched Vivian manipulate Magnus his entire life. You're his first real chance at happiness. I'm all in. Scarlett looked at the files, the evidence, the nuclear option Margaret was offering. Using it meant becoming exactly what Vivian accused her of being. Manipulative, calculating, willing to destroy others for personal gain. Not using it meant watching Magnus marry Phoebe while Vivian systematically destroyed Scarlett's life. I need time to think. You have until the engagement party. 4 days. Margaret handed her a USB drive. Everything's on here. Your choice what you do with it. But Scarlett, don't let honor make you weak. Vivian certainly hasn't. Scarlett returned to her apartment at midnight to find Magnus sitting on her building's front steps. How did you? I know people who know people. He stood, looking exhausted and determined. You weren't answering your phone. I was worried. You can't be here. If someone sees, I don't care. He closed the distance between them. I don't care about photographs or scandals or my mother's threats. I care about you, and I'm not letting them bully you into disappearing from my life. Magnus, they'll destroy my career. Then we'll build you a new one, together. His hands framed her face, touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. I'm done, Scarlett. Done with the arrangement. Done with letting my mother control every aspect of my life. I'm calling off the engagement. You can't. The merger is built on lies anyway. He must have seen her expression shift. What? What do you know? Scarlett thought of the USB drive in her purse, the choice Margaret had given her. Nothing. Magnus, this isn't simple. Your family, your company, your entire life is built around these expectations. You can't just walk away because I'm in love with you. He said it simply, like stating a fact. Like naming something that had always existed. That's exactly why I can walk away. Because for the first time in 32 years, I want something that's mine, not my mother's choice, not the family's legacy. Mine. Scarlett's eyes burned with unshed tears. I'm terrified. Good. So am I. He pressed his forehead to hers. Be terrified with me. But don't walk away. Don't let them win. She should tell him about Margaret's offer. Should tell him about Phoebe's father, about Vivian's bribe, about all the ugly truths hiding beneath the surface. Instead, she kissed him. It was desperate and honest and tasted like rebellion. Magnus responded instantly, pulling her closer, one hand tangled in her hair, the other pressed against the small of her back. The world narrowed to this moment, this man, this impossible choice that felt like the only choice that mattered. A car horn blared. They broke apart, both breathing hard. A black sedan idled at the curb. In the back seat, barely visible through tinted windows, Scarlett saw platinum blonde hair. Vivian, watching. Magnus saw her too. His jaw clenched, but he didn't step away from Scarlett. Let her watch, he said quietly. Let her see that I'm not her puppet anymore. The sedan pulled away slowly, deliberately. She's going to make the engagement party hell, Scarlett whispered. Then we'll survive it together. Magnus kissed her forehead. 4 days. We can do anything for 4 days. But as Scarlett watched him leave, the USB drive heavy in her purse, she wondered if 4 days would be enough to decide. Fight dirty and risk becoming the villain, or fight fair and risk losing everything. The clock was ticking, and Vivian Donovan never lost. The Ashworth Sterling estate in Greenwich was everything Scarlett expected. Obscene wealth masquerading as tasteful elegance. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet playing Vivaldi. 200 guests in designer formal wear, champagne flowing like water. Scarlett wore the dress Margaret had sent her, emerald silk that cost more than her monthly rent, with a note. Wear armor that makes you feel invincible. You'll need it. M. She felt like a fraud. Scarlett. Richard Donovan appeared at her elbow, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. You came. Did I have a choice? We always have choices, just not always good ones. He handed her champagne. Listen, what Vivian's planning tonight? Richard, darling. Vivian materialized like a beautiful nightmare in ice blue Valentino. How lovely that you're entertaining our guest. Miss Marlowe, you look surprisingly appropriate. Well done. The compliment was an insult wrapped in silk. Mrs. Donovan. Come, I'd like you to meet some people. It wasn't a request. Vivian's manicured fingers closed around Scarlett's arm, grip just shy of painful. It's important you understand your place in our world. She steered Scarlett through the crowd, introducing her to board members, society matrons, business titans. Each introduction carried the same subtext. Look at this girl who doesn't belong. Look at her trying to fit in. And this is Charlotte Whitmore, of the Boston Whitmores. Her daughter Amelia was quite close to Magnus once, before she decided to pursue other opportunities in London. Charlotte's smile was tight, pitying. Scarlett recognized her from Margaret's files, one of the women Vivian had destroyed. How nice to meet you, Amelia's mother said coolly. I hope you have better luck than my daughter did. The warning was clear. They reached a private alcove overlooking the gardens. Vivian dismissed everyone with a gesture, leaving them alone. You're wondering when I'll make my move, Vivian said, not bothering with pretense. I respect that about you, Scarlett. You're smart enough to know when you're outmatched. Am I outmatched? Darling, you never stood a chance. Vivian withdrew an envelope from her evening bag. This is a check for $250,000. More than enough to clear your student debt and start fresh somewhere far from New York, far from my son. There it was, the public bribe Margaret had warned about. In exchange for? Your resignation, effective tonight. A signed NDA with severe penalties for violation. And a brief, gracious speech at dinner explaining that you've accepted a position elsewhere and wish Magnus and Phoebe every happiness. Vivian's smile was razor-sharp. You'll do this in front of everyone. You'll smile, and you'll disappear from our lives forever. And if I refuse? Then by Monday morning I'll have destroyed everything you've built. Your reputation, your career, your future. I have files on you, Scarlett. Every mistake, every vulnerability. Your father's gambling debts before he died. Your mother's depression. Your own scholarship fraud investigation in college. Oh yes, I know about that. Even though it was dismissed. I can make it all resurface. Scarlett's blood turned to ice. The scholarship investigation had been a misunderstanding, cleared immediately, but the accusation alone had nearly destroyed her. You're a monster. I'm a mother protecting her son from a gold digger. Vivian's expression didn't waver. Take the money, Scarlett. It's more dignity than most get. The USB drive in Scarlett's clutch felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She could end this, could destroy the Ashworth-Sterling merger, expose Phoebe's father, take away Vivian's leverage. Could become exactly what Vivian accused her of being. I need to think. You have until dinner, 1 hour. Vivian turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Scarlett. Magnus doesn't love you. He loves the idea of rebellion. You're just the most convenient weapon against me. Don't mistake a rich man's tantrum for real emotion. She left Scarlett alone in the alcove, envelope burning in her hands. She offered you money. Scarlett spun. Magnus stood in the doorway, devastatingly handsome in his tuxedo, expression thunderous. How long have you been there? Long enough. He crossed to her, took the envelope, and tore it in half without looking. You're not taking it. Magnus. No. Listen to me. His hands framed her face. Whatever she said, whatever she threatened, none of it matters. I'm ending this tonight. I'm going to announce that the engagement is off. You can't. The merger, your family. Don't you understand? You're my family now. You're what I choose. His eyes burned with intensity. I love you, Scarlett. Not as rebellion, not as convenience. I love your brilliance, your strength, the way you refuse to be intimidated. I love that you're terrified, but you're still here. I love... The merger is built on fraud. The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Magnus froze. What? Phoebe's father. He's been embezzling from their family trust. Millions. If it comes out the Ashworth-Sterlings are ruined, the merger collapses. Scarlett pulled out the USB drive with shaking hands. I have proof. I could leak it, could destroy your mother's leverage, force her to back down. Magnus stared at the drive like it was a bomb. How did you... It doesn't matter. The point is, I have a choice. Use it and win dirty, or let your mother destroy me while taking the high road. So why are you telling me instead of just doing it? Because I need to know. Tears burned her eyes. If I use this, if I become the ruthless person your mother thinks I am, will you still love me? Or will I just prove her right? Magnus was quiet for a long moment. Then he took the USB drive and closed her fingers around it. Don't use it. Her heart cracked. So you want me to just accept? I want you to let me handle my mother my way, not with blackmail or threats, but by showing her she's lost. He pulled her close. Come with me, right now. Let's go tell them together. Magnus, we can't just... A scream cut through the party. They ran to the ballroom. Guests surrounded someone on the floor. Scarlett pushed through the crowd. Phoebe lay unconscious, her champagne glass shattered beside her. Someone call 911, Charlotte Whitmore shouted. I think she's been drugged. Chaos erupted. Vivian appeared, face pale. Everyone stay calm. Nobody leaves until we understand what happened. Her eyes found Scarlett's across the room. And in that moment, Scarlett knew. Vivian had orchestrated this. Another play, another manipulation, and Scarlett was about to be blamed for it. Magnus gripped her hand. Don't say anything. We'll figure this out. But as security began questioning guests, as police sirens wailed in the distance, Scarlett realized something Margaret had tried to tell her. In war, the high road was a luxury she couldn't afford. The question was she willing to fight as dirty as Vivian Donovan? The police questioning lasted 3 hours. By midnight, the party had devolved into a crime scene, guests giving statements, champagne glasses bagged as evidence. Phoebe had been rushed to Greenwich Hospital. Preliminary tests showed rohypnol in her system. Someone had drugged her champagne. And Vivian made sure everyone knew who had the most to gain from Phoebe's humiliation. Miss Marlowe was seen near the champagne table moments before Phoebe collapsed. Vivian told Detective Morrison, voice trembling with perfectly calculated distress. I hate to suggest such a thing, but given the tension between them, that's absurd, Magnus snarled. Scarlett would never, wouldn't she? Vivian's eyes glistened with crocodile tears. A desperate woman facing ruin, watching the man she wants marry someone else. People do terrible things when cornered. Scarlett sat in the library, numb, watching her life implode in real time. Detective Morrison was kind but thorough. Yes, she'd been near the champagne table. Yes, she had motive. No, she had no alibi for those crucial 15 minutes. Miss Marlowe, I'm not arresting you tonight, Morrison said carefully. But don't leave the state. We'll be in touch. When he left, Richard Donovan entered, face grave. The board is meeting tomorrow. Emergency session. They want your resignation before this becomes a media circus. He looked genuinely pained. I'm sorry, Scarlett. I tried, but it's fine. Her voice sounded hollow, distant. I understand. After Richard left, Margaret slipped in through the garden door. Use it, she said without preamble. Use the files. Burn it all down. A woman was just drugged. This isn't... Vivian drugged her own future daughter-in-law. Margaret's voice was ice. She sacrificed Phoebe to destroy you. That's how far she'll go. So stop playing fair when your opponent is willing to poison people. Scarlett looked at the USB drive, still clutched in her hand. The nuclear option. The ugly truth about the Ashworth Sterlings that would detonate everything. If I use this, I'm no better than her. If you don't use it, you lose everything, including Magnus. Margaret gripped her shoulders. Listen to me. Vivian will never stop. She'll hound you, destroy you, make sure you can't work anywhere. You'll spend your life looking over your shoulder. Is your moral high ground worth that? Before Scarlett could answer, the door burst open. Cornelius Donovan entered, and everyone froze. The patriarch rarely involved himself in family drama, preferring to rule from the shadows. Miss Chen, I should have known you'd be skulking around. His eyes moved to Scarlett. And you, the girl causing all this chaos. Mr. Donovan, I know what's on that drive. He gestured to the USB. Margaret's been shopping it around, trying to find leverage. The Ashworth Sterling embezzlement. Quite the scandal. Scarlett's blood ran cold. How? Because I gave her those files. Cornelius smiled, thin and sharp. 20 years ago, Vivian forced Margaret out after she discovered my affair with a board member. Vivian needed to prove her loyalty, her ruthlessness. Margaret was collateral damage. I've felt guilty ever since. Margaret stared at him, shock evident. You're helping me? I'm helping myself. Vivian has become a liability. She's so obsessed with controlling Magnus that she's damaging the company. Tonight's stunt with Phoebe? Unacceptable. We don't poison allies, even inconvenient ones. You knew she drugged Phoebe? Scarlett asked, horrified. I suspected. Vivian's never been subtle when threatened. Cornelius moved to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Here's what's going to happen. Miss Marlowe, you're going to that board meeting tomorrow. You're going to present those files and explain exactly why the Ashworth Sterling merger is a disaster. You're going to save this company from Vivian's machinations. And in return? In return, I support you and Magnus. Publicly. Completely. He turned, eyes sharp. I'm old, Miss Marlowe. Tired. I built this company from nothing, and I'll be damned if I watch my son marry for a business deal that's rotting from the inside. You close the Patterson contract. You're brilliant, hungry, and you make Magnus happy. That's enough for me. The board will never accept. The board does what I tell them. I still control 43% of shares. His smile was wolfish. Vivian forgets that sometimes. She's been running things so long, she thinks she's unchallengeable. Tomorrow, we remind her otherwise. Margaret looked between them. This is a trap. It has to be. Possibly. But it's the only trap offering Miss Marlowe a way out. Cornelius moved toward the door. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Executive boardroom. Bring the files. Bring your courage. And for God's sake, bring that spine you showed when you told my wife to stuff her bribe. He left. Margaret and Scarlett stared at each other. Can we trust him? Scarlett whispered. Does it matter? It's this or ruin. Margaret squeezed her hand. But Scarlett, if you do this tomorrow, there's no going back. You'll make an enemy of Vivian forever. She'll never forgive you. She was already my enemy. True. But tomorrow, it becomes war. Scarlett found Magnus on the terrace at 2 a.m., tie undone, jacket discarded, staring at the city lights. Phoebe's awake, he said without turning. She doesn't remember anything. Convenient. Your mother did this. I know. His voice was hollow. My own mother drugged my fiancé to frame the woman I love. And I'm standing here wondering how I didn't see this coming. How I didn't see what she was years ago. Scarlett moved beside him. Your grandfather offered me a deal. Help him expose the Ashworth-Sterling fraud, and he'll support us. Magnus turned sharply. My grandfather never does anything that doesn't benefit him first. I know. But he's right about one thing. The merger is poison. And your mother is willing to destroy anyone to make it happen. So you're going to use the files. I don't have a choice anymore. She met his eyes. The police suspect me. The board wants me gone. Your mother won't stop until I'm destroyed. This is survival. Magnus was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only real thing in his world. I'm sorry, he whispered against her hair. I'm sorry I brought you into this nightmare. I'm sorry my family is... Don't. She pulled back to look at him. Don't apologize for them. You're not responsible for their choices. But I am responsible for dragging you into their line of fire. His thumb traced her cheek. If you want to walk away, use those files to protect yourself and disappear. I'd understand. I'd hate it, but I'd understand. Is that what you want? I want you safe. I want you happy. I want... His voice cracked. I want to wake up next to you every morning and not worry that my mother is plotting your destruction over breakfast. I want normal, but I don't know if we can ever have that. Then we'll have abnormal. Scarlett kissed him, soft and sure. Tomorrow, I'm going into that boardroom. I'm exposing the truth, and I'm fighting for us. But Magnus, after tomorrow, nothing will be the same. Your family will be fractured. Your mother will be humiliated. Can you live with that? He didn't hesitate. Yes, because living without you isn't living at all. They stayed on the terrace until dawn, wrapped in each other, preparing for the battle ahead. At 8:47 a.m., Scarlett walked into Donovan Enterprises wearing her armor, the navy suit from her promotion day, red lipstick, her mother's watch. The boardroom was full. Vivian sat at the head of the table, queenly and confident. Board members filled every seat. Magnus stood by the windows, jaw set. Cornelius observed from the corner, expression unreadable. Miss Marlowe, Vivian said coolly, how kind of you to attend your own termination. Scarlett plugged in the USB drive. Actually, Mrs. Donovan, I'm here to save your company. And she pressed play. The evidence scrolled across the screen. Embezzlement records, forged documents, the Ashworth-Sterling empire built on fraud. Vivian's face drained of color. Where did you... The merger you're pushing, it's toxic. The Ashworth Sterlings are bankrupt, using your money to cover their crimes. If this partnership goes through, Donovan Enterprises will be complicit in fraud. We'll face investigations, lawsuits, prison time. Board members erupted. Angry voices, shocked exclamations. Vivian tried to regain control, but the dam had broken. "This is blackmail," she hissed at Scarlett. "Manipulation. This is the truth." Scarlett faced her without flinching. "Something you've forgotten exists." Cornelia stood. "The merger is cancelled, effective immediately." "Father, you can't—" "I can, and I am." He looked at his daughter-in-law with something like pity. "Vivian, you've served this family well. But your time-controlling Magnus ends today. He's free to make his own choices, including who he loves." Vivian looked at Magnus, something desperate flickering in her eyes. "Magnus, please, I did this for you, for your future. You did this for control." Magnus moved to stand beside Scarlett. "And I'm done being controlled." The words hung in the air, final as a death sentence. Vivian stood slowly, dignity shattered, but still trying. "You'll regret this," she said softly, looking at Scarlett. "Both of you." She walked out, and Scarlett knew she'd made an enemy for life. But she'd won. 6 weeks later. The Patterson campaign launch broke every metric Donovan Enterprises had ever recorded. Social media engagement up 340%. Brand recognition increased by 67%. Stock prices soared. Scarlett stood in the conference room, watching the numbers roll in, surrounded by her team now reporting directly to her. "Miss Marlowe?" Her assistant poked her head in. "Mr. Donovan is here." Magnus entered carrying coffee and that smile that still made her heart stutter. "Congratulations, Director Marlowe. You just saved the company approximately $47 million. 48, actually." She accepted the coffee and the kiss that came with it. I counted. 6 weeks since the boardroom confrontation. 6 weeks of investigation, restructuring, and radical change at Donovan Enterprises. The police had traced Phoebe's drugging back to a catering employee, bribed by an anonymous source. The source was never officially identified, but Vivian's sudden retirement to their Palm Beach estate spoke volumes. Cornelius had given her a choice: step down quietly or face questions about her involvement. She'd chosen exile. Phoebe had called off the engagement herself, dignified and relieved. "I never wanted to marry him anyway," she'd told Scarlett over surprisingly friendly coffee. "My father pushed it, hoping Donovan money would cover his crimes. You did me a favor. I'm moving to Paris, starting over." The Ashworth Sterling scandal had been carefully contained. Fraud exposed, investors protected, minimal collateral damage. Cornelius proved masterful at crisis management, and Magnus had chosen Scarlett. Publicly, completely, scandalously. "The board meeting's in 10 minutes, Magnus said now, checking his watch. "Ready? For your grandfather to officially announce you as CEO? Absolutely." For the other announcement. His eyes glinted with mischief and nervousness. Scarlett's stomach flipped. They'd talked about this, planned it, but still. "I'm ready." The boardroom was packed, every member present, plus department heads, senior staff. Cornelius stood at the head, looking healthier than he had in months. "Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I'm stepping back from daily operations. It's time." He gestured to Magnus. "My grandson has proven himself capable, innovative, and willing to make difficult choices for this company's future. Effective immediately, Magnus Donovan is CEO of Donovan Enterprises." Applause filled the room. Magnus stood, accepting congratulations, looking both confident and humble. "Thank you. I know I have enormous shoes to fill. But I'm not doing this alone." He found Scarlett in the crowd. Scarlett Marlowe has demonstrated brilliance, integrity, and courage beyond measure. She saved this company from a disastrous merger, delivered our most successful campaign in history, and— He paused, emotion flickering across his face. "She changed my life." The room went silent. Which is why I'm promoting her to Chief Marketing Officer, effective immediately. Gasps, whispers. Scarlett's eyes widened. They'd discussed a promotion, but CMO? That was... And asking her to marry me. The world stopped. Magnus crossed the room, dropped to one knee and pulled out a ring. Emerald surrounded by diamonds, exactly her style. Scarlett Marlowe, you terrify me in the best possible way. You challenge me, inspire me, make me want to be better than I ever thought possible. You took on my family, fought through impossible odds and never compromised who you are. I love you, completely, impossibly, forever. His voice caught. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. Every eye in the room watched, waiting. You're proposing in a board meeting. I'm proposing in front of everyone who matters, so they know. You're not a scandal, not a controversy, not a complication. You're my future, my choice, my everything. She pulled him to his feet, kissing him as the room erupted in applause and chaos. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, you impossible, wonderful man. Yes. The ring slid onto her finger perfectly. Richard Donovan wiped his eyes. Best board meeting I've ever attended. 2 years later, the Brooklyn brownstone they'd bought together, equal investment, equal ownership, equal partnership in everything, smelled like Sunday morning. Coffee, pancakes, and possibilities. Scarlett worked at the kitchen table, laptop open, reviewing the new campaign proposal. Magnus cooked, because he'd discovered he loved it, this domestic normalcy they'd built together. Your mother sent a card, he said, sliding pancakes onto plates. Scarlett looked at the envelope, postmarked from Palm Beach. They'd opened the first few, poisonous, manipulative attempts to regain control. But lately Vivian's tone had shifted. Not quite apologetic, but softer, acknowledging perhaps that she'd lost because she'd played the wrong game. Maybe we'll read it later. She closed the laptop. Right now I just want breakfast with my husband. Husband. The word still thrilled her. They'd married 6 months ago. Small ceremony, close friends, Mrs. Rosario catering. No society pages, no pressure, just love. How's the Anderson account? Magnus asked, sitting across from her. Brilliant. We're going to crush it. She stole a piece of his bacon. How's the Shanghai expansion? Complicated, but we'll figure it out. We always do. The Patterson campaign had led to 12 more major contracts. Donovan Enterprises had restructured, modernized, become something new under Magnus's leadership. Ethical, innovative, successful, beyond projection. Scarlett had proven herself not just as CMO, but as Magnus's true partner. The board respected her. Competitors feared her. And she'd never compromised her integrity to get there. Margaret called, Magnus said. Wants to have dinner next week. Margaret had gotten her public apology from Vivian and her consulting contract. She'd become their ally, their friend, the aunt they never had. Tell her yes, but not Rosario's. I want to cook. You? Cook? Magnus laughed. Should I alert the fire department? She threw a napkin at him, laughing, and he caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. I love this, he said quietly. Sunday mornings, no drama, just us. We earned it. We did. He pulled her into his lap, holding her close. Though I should warn you, my grandfather asked if we're planning on babies anytime soon. He wants great-grandchildren before he's 90. Cornelius is 68. He's impatient. Magnus's hand spread across her stomach, tentative, hopeful. Though I wouldn't mind. Eventually. Eventually. She kissed him softly. Let's conquer the world first. Then we'll make tiny humans to help us run it. Deal. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Saw the engagement announcement. Congratulations. You won. Vivian. Not warm, not exactly kind, but acknowledgement. Acceptance, perhaps. as close to peace as they'd ever get. Scarlett showed Magnus. He read it, expression complicated. Do you want to respond? Maybe. He set the phone aside. But not today. Today is ours. They ate breakfast, talked about work and dreams, and the vacation they were planning to Tuscany. They laughed, they planned, they simply existed together in the life they'd fought so hard to build. Later, Scarlett stood by the window overlooking their Brooklyn street. Their street in their home. Their life built on honesty and love, and refusing to let anyone else write their story. Magnus wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. Any regrets? He asked. She thought about that night at the Aurelius Club, the humiliation and fury, the choice to fight instead of flee, the risk of loving someone when the odds were impossible. Not a single one, she said, turning to kiss him. You? Only that I didn't meet you sooner. Outside, Brooklyn hummed with life. Inside, two people who'd fought through scandal and family and impossible odds simply loved each other and lived happily ever after. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. The end.